Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today, we've prepared 3 brand new stories, and the first one will tell you about the tricky neighbors that our OP encountered. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, if you're new here, and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Take down my tree, or else. My mom bought some choice property lakeside for really cheap. She's put 2 years of labor and her own off days to fix it up and take down all the underbrush to build her own place out there. The only problem was the neighbors. Around Christmas last year, a tree fell from our neighbor's yard into ours. Not an issue. Mom went to the neighbor's place to chip in some money to get it off her yard. She offered $150, which is pretty gracious, considering a basic tree removal package is about $400, and it wasn't her tree in the first place. There was about a third of the tree on our property, and honestly, she probably could have taken it out with a chainsaw in 3 hours. But she didn't have the time or energy to do it, which is understandable. The neighbors start negotiations that went something like this. Mom: well, I don't mind chipping in a bit to help move the tree off our properties. James, the neighbor: well, that'd be super kind of you. We're looking at about $500 for you, and we can pay another $500. Mom: I'm sorry, what? I don't know what tree service you're using, but I'm sure I could find one cheaper than that so we could both save some extra money. No, we always use my brother's company. He does great work, and I'm sure he'd have it done in no time. Your brother has a tree company? Well, he does construction, and he helped us build this place, and he'll help us out whenever we ask. Would he be willing to do it for less, if he's your brother? What? No, he's a businessman. He might go lower for us considering we're family, but it'd still be $500 for you. Mom: I'm sorry. I can't afford to pay $500 to have this removed off my property, especially when I know I could get it removed for $500 entirely from someone else. Well, you offered us the money to help, and that's what we're asking for, so I'm sure this would all blow over after the $500 comes through. Mom refused, of course, and this pissed the neighbors off so much they took down the tree, but only on their side. I went out and spent my weekend cutting the rest of the tree down with my mom. We eventually found out they liked trespassing to see the lake from our backyard, so we put up a huge fence. The day we put the fence up, James' wife comes out and moons us. We eventually called the cops with all the threats they were giving us, and lo and behold, they hadn't paid taxes on their house in 5+ years. Their scumbag brother didn't build the house to code either. Let's just say they don't bother us anymore. And our second story. Going along with a sexist car salesman. My wife and I have used a salesman's sexism against him, and it was so satisfying. It was when we bought our first new car. We were so nervous that we didn't know what we were doing, so we did a lot of research. It helps that my wife is a librarian. When we got to the dealer, the salesman would only talk to me. I was all buddy-buddy with the guy too, but he completely ignored my wife. We went along. The dealer was running a promotion where they give you X number of dollars for your trade-in, no matter what condition, if you can drive it on the lot kind of deal. Of course, they don't just discount off the MSRP in those cases, so it's a gimmick. When we walked in, the salesman asked which car was ours parked outside, and then asked if we were trading it in. I said no, we weren't trading that car in. You can see where this is going. As I said, we'd done our research and knew what a fair price was for the car we wanted. At the time, Edmunds had detailed dealer-level price information for many new cars, including all the various ways a dealer gets paid and what their true costs are. The invoice price is not their true cost. I negotiated the price since he wouldn't talk to my wife, and we arrived at a number I thought was fair, actually. We got a good deal at that point. Everything was going smoothly as he wrote up our agreement until he confirmed that we didn't have a trade-in. I said no, we were trading in a car, just not the one we drove into the dealer. He literally froze for a few seconds, looking down at the form, his hand hovering over the page. He asked the make, model, and year of our trade-in, and when I told him, he sputtered and balked. The car we were trading in was on its last legs. I'd had it all during college, and it was old before I bought it. It was definitely past its prime. I said I thought you were running a promotion where the quality of the trade-in doesn't matter. I asked him if he would have given us a higher price if he knew we had a trade-in. My wife said under her breath, "That's sleazy." He heard, as she intended him to. He then tried to renegotiate the price. We knew from our research that if they gave us the price we had already agreed on and they honored the trade-in deal, that they would be losing money. So we were willing to move a bit, but we wanted to take our time. He was visibly nervous. Every time he tried a new way of asking for a higher price, I would say something like, "I understand what you're saying," with a sympathetic look. Then I would look at my wife and she would look back at me and silently shake her head no. I'd then look back at the salesman and shrug and say, "I don't think that's going to work." He was stuck. She was the one standing in the way of him getting out of his predicament, but he hadn't talked to her at all. He'd barely even acknowledged her presence. He just couldn't start talking to her now when we were negotiating. Oh, and I even got to use the classic car salesman line. "What do I have to do for you to put me in this car today?" We finally agreed to raise the price to an amount that, after figuring in the trade-in, was what we had thought would be their break-even price. We hadn't expected to get that low of a price, and we also got them to install a nice aftermarket sound system. It's the best deal we've ever gotten on a new car. Honestly, we're not the best negotiators individually, but that day we made one hell of a team. And our last story. Harass me for a year? Lose your business. Backstory. I found a job through a friend that was working there and she recommended me. At first, everything was pretty normal, even if the manager was a bit pervy. I had two bosses that shared percentage of the company. The manager had the lowest percentage and the tech director had the most. Let's call the manager Mark and the tech director Seb. After 2 months, Seb is called and has to go to the police station and he gets arrested for fraud. It wasn't with my company, but for another one he had prior to that. Seb was actually the nicest of the two, and as soon as he was gone, Mark began to act up. So I admit that I'm on the heavier side since I gave birth and have a lot of trouble losing the weight. When I began to work for the company, I'd only given birth 3 months ago, but Mark decided I was too fat and reminded me of it constantly. At nearly every lunch break, I would get a comment on how I sure seemed happy to eat. When I got food delivered, he told me, "Wow, you look so happy to see that delivery guy. Don't eat him too." And even in front of other employees at a company dinner. "I don't take OP with us often for dinner because she eats a lot and she's expensive." I actually always made sure to order the cheapest thing on the menu and would not take anything else other than my main course. He would threaten to fire me because I didn't do my work properly, according to him, but in the same sentence told me I should do his work for him. At one point, I decided enough was enough. I took care of everything in the company, so I had access to every file and everything. I decided to call one of my coworkers, who's also the stepdaughter of Seb. I told her what was happening, and we decided to plan to get Mark out of the company. Since I never said anything to him when he insulted me, he never believed I was a threat to him and would not bother to hide anything illegal he did. I took meticulous notes of everything, and every night I would call my coworker to tell her. I kept all the proof I could get. She got in touch with Seb, who was in prison for 10 months, and we talked to his lawyer to see what we could do. As time passed, he effed up a lot, and I even recorded some of the insults he said against me, my coworker, and Seb. After a few months of this, it was nearly time for Seb to get out of jail. I tried to hold on until then, but my boyfriend suffers from depression and was not okay. So I told Mark that I had to take care of him, and he took it badly, but couldn't do anything. Just before Seb came out of jail, I told my boss I couldn't go back to work and asked to cut off my contract amicably. In my country, if you do that, you get a stipend from the state paid in advance by the company's taxes. He agreed. When Seb came back, he told Mark that he knew of all the crap he did while Seb was away. Mark was livid because he tried to act all buddy-buddy with Seb from the moment he was thrown in jail. Mark asked Seb how he knew, and Seb said I'd been telling everything to him behind Mark's back. Of course, he was furious with me, but he could do nothing as I wasn't with the company anymore. So he told Mark that I was unhinged and lying. I wouldn't let that fly. After a week since Seb was out of jail, I came by the office with my ex-coworker and Seb and repeated all that happened in the 10 months that Seb was away. I wanted Mark to call me out, and he did just that, telling me to my face that I was lying. I got all my evidence out, and he was fuming. Seb lit into Mark and got him to give the percentage he had of the company, or else Seb would have gotten the police involved. I had enough proof to send him to jail for a long time. He lost his job and his girlfriend because in all the time I was working there, he couldn't help but talk to me about his girlfriend and his mistress. I found his girl on Facebook and sent her a recording of Mark bragging about his mistress and what he had done in bed with her. Bye-bye, girlfriend. So all in all, I get to take care of my baby while being paid by the company, knowing that Mark is going to have a hard time finding another job, and I got to tell him to his face what I thought of him. I'm happy. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.